Hotep. Welcome back, everybody, to Matthew Daniels TV, the greatest author alive. Y'all see the title. Today we're going to be talking about what are the 42 laws of Maat. Now, I know I haven't dropped a video in a while. That's because I'm working on my 17th book. That's right. I'm working on my 17th book. So I've been devoting a lot of my time to research and writing. So I apologize to the people that follow my channel and you've been wondering where I've been, but I've been handling business in the real world, writing my 17th novel. But I had a conversation with one of my friends the other day, and we were talking about Maat, the 42 laws of Maat. What's the difference between the two? Where did Maat come from? What is the oldest reference that we have to the 42 laws of Maat? What is the oldest reference that we have to Maat itself? And I realized that this will be a good topic that I can touch on real quick for those that are interested in the quote-unquote comedic science. So let me get my PowerPoint started. Let me make sure my share screen is working. Let me make sure that my audio is working. And I'm going to do a quick video explaining what are the 42 laws of Maat. Now, I'm going to tell you guys some things that you probably never heard before. And I'm going to break down some things that is undoubtedly going to make this make sense. So give me just a second. Let me pull my PowerPoint up. This isn't going to be a long show. So if you have something to do, just bear with me for about 30, 45 minutes. And I'm going to break this thing down for you. Hold on. Okay, so my PowerPoint is working. My audio is working. So the 42 laws of Maat. Let's get into the video. What you're seeing on the screen is an ancient depiction of the goddess Maat, or the Neteru Maat. You can always determine which image is the goddess Maat by the feather that's on her head. Let me zoom in on it. You see that? You see that ostrich feather? That ostrich feather will always be depicted on the head of the goddess Maat. So whenever you're looking at the images and you see the image of one of the netters with the feather on her head, you know they're talking about Maat. But what exactly is Maat? Maat isn't a person, right? Even though they call Maat a netter, Maat isn't even specifically a god. Maat is more or less a principle. It's an idea. And what Maat represents is, to make it as plain as possible, when one says Maat, they're talking about the right way. The right way to do a thing is Maat. Now, you will hear some people, they'll say that Maat is truth, justice, righteousness, reciprocity, balance, harmony. And all of these things are true. Because if you are doing things the right way, you're going to be honest. You're going to be just. You're going to balance the scales. You aren't going to overcharge or undercharge. You're going to charge what something is worth. So when an individual says that Maat is truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, reciprocity, all of that is correct, because at the heart of it, what is Maat? Maat is the way, the right way to do a thing, the right way to live, the right way to treat your husband, the right way to treat your wife, the right way to raise your children, the right way to behave at work, the right way to deal with the bully, the right way to build a structure, the right way to create new technology, the right way to officiate your position as a judge. Whatever job you have, think about the job that you have. There is a right way to carry out the functions of your job, and there is a wrong way to carry out the functions of your job. Now, Ma'at is timeless. Ma'at existed from the very beginning of creation, and Ma'at will exist forevermore. There is no beginning and there is no end to Ma'at. For when the very universe itself was created, the universe was created on the foundations of Ma'at. What do I mean by that? If you're going to create creation, there is a right way to do it. You must follow the rules of Ma'at. When an individual looks up into the heavens and you see the planets orbiting the sun, Earth, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, etc. Those planets are orbiting the sun in the order that they are orbiting the sun, and in the method and measurements that they are orbiting the sun, because they are following Ma'at. There is a specific way in which a quote unquote heavenly body orbits its host star. The moon, which orbits the earth, is following the courses of Ma'at because it is orbiting the earth in the correct way. When an individual talks about the laws of physics, the laws that govern how existence operates and interacts with each other, is what the Egyptians call Ma'at. Those laws, the laws of gravity, the laws of thermodynamics, the laws of energy, the laws of motion, etc., the laws of physics, the laws of quantum mechanics, those laws, those unwritten rules that pre-exist humanity, that pre-exist the universe itself, because the universe itself operates according to those laws, or those laws are based on Ma'at. That is the understanding. There is a right way to do a thing, and there is a wrong way to do a thing. The planets orbit the sun in harmony. If a planet got out of its orbit and collides with another planet, that is obviously, if this has been going on for billions and billions of years, if a planet was to get off of its orbit and collide with another planet and no longer follow the quote unquote, what we're calling today the laws of gravity, then that planet that got off its orbit would no longer be operating according to Ma'at, and it would be operating according to the opposite of Ma'at, which is Isfet. Isfet is chaos. Isfet is evil. Isfet is wickedness. Isfet is the wrong way to do a thing. So the goddess Ma'at represents the right way. The goddess Ma'at itself, is what has existed before the universe. The universe was built upon Ma'at, laws and order and rules, and Ma'at will exist until the end of time. Now you have some people, such as myself, when we refer to the Egyptian religion, we call the religion Ma'at. Why do we call the Egyptian religion Ma'at? Because the religion is focused on doing things the right way, living the right way, so that when one dies, one can go on to the realm of the ancestors, or as the Egyptians put it, the field of peace or the fields of reed. Now, stay with me. I'm going to make this make sense with the idea of the 42 laws of Maat. But you first must understand what Maat actually is. Let's go a little further. Let's go to the next slide, family. What you're seeing on the right side of the screen is the actual tomb of an Egyptian named Ptah Hotep. Ptah Hotep. Ptah is one of the netters. A lot of times, individuals in Egypt, within their very names, they had the names of the netters or the gods or the forces of nature that they most closely associated themselves with. So what you're seeing on the right is the actual tomb. It still exists, of a man named Ptah Hotep. Now, Ptah Hotep lived around 2400 BCE. That's 4,400 years ago. Now, none of the major world religions existed at this time. You did have a religious system in Sumeria. I'll give them that. And I'm pretty sure if you go back hundreds of thousands of years, mankind on planet Earth had some form of spirituality. But we're talking about Egyptian religion, we're talking about Egyptian spirituality, and we're talking about Maat. So what we have here is a man named Ptah Hotep, who was the vizier of ancient Egypt under King Isis. Is how they have it rendered in Wikipedia. I may be butchering that name. Forgive me. I don't speak ancient Egyptian. Right? So we have his burial location. We have statues that show his likeness, which you're seeing on the screen to the left-hand side. That's what Ptah Hotep actually looked like. And he's depicted wearing two different types of wigs. We know when he lived. We know where he lived. We know the pharaoh or the Nisu Biti or the king that he ruled under. We know his wife's name. Okay. Now, we also have a book that he wrote that we're about to get into. But what I want to explain, again, we're going back 4,400 years before this present moment. This is before any of the current major world religions existed. Thousands of years before they existed. We have to wrap our minds around that and how old this information is. Now, Ptah Hotep was the vizier of Egypt. What is the vizier of Egypt? The vizier is the second in command. He is the right-hand man of the pharaoh, the advisor to the pharaoh. This guy was a genius. Not only was this guy a actual genius, he was a diplomatic individual. He knew diplomacy. He knew how to talk. He knew how to speak on behalf of the king. He was learned. He went to school. He was educated. He could write. He could do mathematics. He had a basis of understanding in the various fields of geometry, geology, mathematics, medicine. He had a base writing. He had a basic understanding in all of these fields, and he was able to stand out amongst the others that had a basis of knowledge in these fields and rise to become the second in command of Egypt. Now, sometimes I don't like to compare Egypt to the Bible because that's really not what I do these days. But I know that a lot of individuals are I can't even pronounce the word, infinitely, right? Or extremely more familiar with the Bible than they are with ancient Egypt. So I'll give you a correlation. In the Bible, the sons of Jacob sold their youngest brother Joseph into slavery. Remember the story of Joseph and his coat of many colors. Jacob loved Joseph so much, he gave him a coat of many colors. His brothers were jealous. So while out in the field one day, his brothers sold Joseph out into slavery. Joseph winds up in Egypt, and because of his ability to interpret dreams, this dream interpretation that he got from God, he rose in rank in the land of Egypt to become the second in command of Egypt. The Bible says that Pharaoh told Joseph, I want you to wear my ring. I want you to speak for me. And you are second in the land of Egypt only to me, meaning it was Pharaoh, Joseph, everybody else. Well, Joseph in the Bible story had become the vizier of Egypt. So that second in command in the land of Egypt, that position is the same position that Ptahhotep actually held. Now, I don't believe Joseph was a real person. I just have to say that. But that position was a real position in Egypt. And Ptahhotep held that position. Now, Ptahhotep wrote a book. This book is the oldest complete book in the world. Pay attention to what I'm saying. It's not the oldest writing in the world. There are older writings than this, but it is the oldest complete book. We have it from start to finish, and we know that it's around 2400 BCE. Okay, now we're going to look at what Ptahhotep says about Maat to validate what I'm telling you guys now. And I'm doing this to lay the groundwork so that when we look at the 42 laws of Maat, you understand what I'm talking about. Let's zoom in. So, in the instructions of Ptahhotep, you will sometimes Google it and it'll say the maxims of Ptahhotep. He tells you who he is, what his position is, and what he's writing about. He says, these are the instructions by the mayor of the city, who is also the vizier. His name is Ptahhotep, and he serves under Pharaoh Asa, who lives for all eternity. The mayor of the city, Vizier Ptahhotep, addressed the supreme divinity, the deity, as follows. Now, who is the supreme divinity, the deity? That is Pharaoh, and that is his son, who is next in line to become the first Pharaoh. The Pharaoh, or the Nisu Bidi, was God on earth. This is why it's all in the news now that the Pope just died. One of the titles of the Pope is what? The Vicar of Christ. To the Catholic believer, they believe that Jesus is not only the Son of God, but he is also God himself. He was God in the flesh. So when the Pope says that he is the Vicar of Christ, he's saying that he sits in the seat of Christ until Christ returns in the future. So the Pope, in essence, according to Catholicism, is the closest thing to God that humanity can get to, because he sits in the seat of Christ and Christ is God. They got this concept from ancient Egypt. Maybe not directly. We can debate whether it was direct or not. But what I'm saying is this concept comes from ancient Egypt. The supreme deity, the Pharaoh, sat in the seat of God, or the netter. That is why every Pharaoh has what's known as a Heru name. Who is Heru? Heru is a netter, and he is the son of Asar. Asar was a king of Egypt who was murdered by his brother Set. And Asar's son, Heru, had to do battle with Set to claim his rightful place on the throne. So once Heru defeated Set, he became the official king, the rightful ruler. Now, every pharaoh, every Nisubiti who sat on the throne of Egypt was Heru. They sat in the seat of Heru. Heru being the rightful ruler because it was divine succession. His father was the ruler, so his son was supposed to be the ruler. So when they looked at the Pharaoh as being the supreme divinity, the deity, they looked at him as Heru because he sat in the seat of Heru. They were saying that I am Heru. I am the rightful ruler. Look what he goes on to say. God upon the two crocodiles, reference to Heru, who is sometimes shown standing on two crocodiles. Now, this is what Ptahhotep is writing. My God, the process of aging brings senility. My mind decays, and forgetfulness of the things of yesterday has already begun. Feebleness has come and weakness grows. Childlike, one sleeps all day. So he goes on to explain how he has become old in years. Actually, he is 110 years old when he writes this. He has lived a full life. And so what he's saying is, I've lived 110 years. I rose up to become second in command in Egypt. And so what he wants to do with his last and final breath, he wants to write down the instructions. That's why it's called the instructions of Ptahhotep. He wants to write down the instructions for the future Pharaoh to have in order that that future Pharaoh may be able to follow Maat. He wants to give him the game. Have you ever noticed when elders are about to die, or not even about to die because I don't want to be morbid, but they are all up in age and they know that any day can be the day now. And you go sit with those elders. 9 times out of 10, that elder is going to try to impart wisdom on the younger generation, the wisdom that they have learned. This is what always happened in Egypt. The elders tried to teach the younger generation what they have learned. But Ptahhotep, hold on, I think the video stopped. Okay, it's back on. And so, hold on. Let me get this fixed. So what Ptahhotep is doing, he is going to leave information about how the next ruler can rule and follow Maat. Because remember, Maat is the right way to do a thing. So if you're going to rule, you need to rule according to Maat. Look what Ptahhotep says. May your servant, the servant of the king, the future king, may your servant be authorized to use the status that old age affords to teach the hearers so as to tell them the words of those who have listened to the ways of our ancestors and of those who have listened to the gods. Stop right there. What is Ptahhotep saying? Ptahhotep is saying that even though he is living in 2400 BCE, before any of the current major world religions existed, before they even existed on the planet, he's saying the information that he's about to share came from his ancestors that are older than him. And those ancestors got this information directly from the gods. the gods being translated as the netters, the Neteru. Because remember, it was the Neteru who civilized man. The Egyptians taught that not all of them, but there are certain netters who are real physical beings who existed on planet Earth who taught mankind agriculture, taught mankind music, taught mankind how to build, taught them mathematics, taught them geometry, taught them how to make fire, taught them all the things that will enable them to create civilizations and societies. But these netters also taught them Maat. They taught them the right way to live, the right way to do things. They taught them the principles of right and wrong so that every decision they made, they could make it based on Maat so that they would have the most beneficial outcome, right? So he goes on to say, may I do this for you so that strife may be banned from among our people and so that the two shores may serve you. What are the two shores? They looked at Kemet, Egypt, as being upper and lower Kemet, upper and lower Egypt. And so what Ptahhotep is saying is, I'm going to tell you what I heard from mouth to ear from the ancestors, that our ancestors heard mouth to ear from the Neteru themselves about how to practice Maat. How do I know that he's talking about the practice of Maat? We're going to skip over and we're going to come back to something. Look what he says. If you are a man who leads, now what he does in the instructions of Ptahhotep, he goes into a soliloquy and basically he's teaching how you should act in certain situations based on Maat. Look here. He says, if you are a man who leads, a man who controls the affairs of many, then seek the most perfect way of performing your responsibility so that your conduct will be blameless. Great is Maat. Look what they put in parentheses. Great is Maat, truth, justice, and righteousness. It is everlasting. Maat is everlasting and Maat is great. Maat has been unchanged since the time of Asar. Stop. Asar is one of the netters. Remember, I told you the netters, the Neteru, taught this to humanity, and it was passed down from generation to generation to generation. And Ptahhotep, 4,400 years ago, is stating that Maat has been unchanged since the time of Asar, since the time of the netters, when the netters ruled on planet Earth, because Asar was a king. To create obstacles to the following of laws is to open a way to a condition of violence. So he's saying, if one can make it difficult for an individual to follow the law, they invite violence into the society. One great example of that in today's world is the whole no snitching movement. Now, the no snitching movement began where an individual was saying, if two people commit a crime together, they agree to commit the crime, they do the crime, one person gets caught, that one person shouldn't snitch on the other person because they are just as guilty of the crime as well. Now, what they have taken that to mean is that a law-abiding citizen who doesn't commit any crime sees someone committing crime in their neighborhood, they shouldn't tell on that person that they see committing crime in their neighborhood because of no snitching. But the no snitching ideology is an obstacle to the following of the law. listen, to create obstacles to the following of laws is to open a way to a condition of violence. So we have, in essence, taken this no snitching clause. We have used it to create, well, not us, but I'm saying it has been used to create an obstacle to the following of laws. We enable the violence, and it has opened the way to a condition of violence. Now violence runs rampant in a lot of our communities, and we don't do anything about it because we feel, hey, we shouldn't be snitching. That's the no snitching clause is 100% against Maat, and that's why you're getting the results that you're getting as a real world example. But anyway, the transgressor of laws is punished, although the greedy person overlooks this. Baseness may obtain riches, yet crime never lands its wares on the shore. In the end, only Maat lasts. Man says, Maat is my father's ground. See, what we need to do is we need to get back to following the laws of Maat. We need to get back to the contemplation of thinking about what is the right way to do a thing. What is the right way to conduct myself at work? What is the right way to conduct myself at school? What is the right way to deal with a bully? What is the right way to deal with a cheating spouse? What is the right way to go about finding a wife? What is the right way to go about finding a husband? What is the right way to deal with individuals in government? What is the right way to build? What is the right way to make new technology that won't destroy? What is the right way to deal with wildlife? What is the right way to speak? What is the right way to act? What is the right way to think? And we need to order our steps according to Maat, the right way. So we see that Maat has been unchanged since the time of Asar. We see that in the end, only Maat lasts. And we see that man should say, rather, Maat is my father's ground. My house is built upon doing things the right way. What good is making $1 billion if you have to destroy the lives of 1 billion people to make it? What is the point? And he goes on to give us life lessons. Do not scheme against people. Stop scheming. Stop trying to get over. That's what Maat would say. Maat tells you to stop scheming against people. Stop trying to F over people. Stop trying to make a quick come up. Don't rob, don't steal, don't trick, don't lie, don't manipulate. God will punish accordingly. If a man says, I shall live by scheming, he will lack bread for his mouth. If a man says, I will be rich, he will have to say, my cleverness has trapped me. Now that's real, because I literally said what he's telling you not to say. Before I went to prison, I used to tell myself, I had a saying. Anybody that knows me will tell you this. I used to say, if I can get over just one more time, I'll be all right. And I thought that was like a clever saying. If I can hit one more lick, if I can shortchange just one more person, if I can get away with just one more crime, I'll be all right. And that put me in a perpetual state of violating the law, violating my community, you know. And what did that get me? That got me thrown away in prison. Look what he says. If a man says, I will be rich by scheming, he will have to say, my cleverness has trapped me. I was so smart on robbing and stealing, pillaging and plundering. I ended up getting 5 years in the penitentiary, and I was trapped like a bird in a cage because I didn't have this teaching. So Ptahhotep, he goes on, and one day we'll do a whole discussion on the instructions of Ptahhotep. But we see that he's teaching Maat And what is Mayat? Mayat is just the right way to do a thing. Look, I'm gonna show you this real quick. He's teaching Mayat now, and he says, look, if you meet a disputant in action who is a poor man and who is not your equal, do not attack him because he is weak. Leave him alone. He will confound himself. Do not answer him just so that you can relieve your own heart. You run into a person, you know you can win. You know you can win the argument. You know you can win the fight. You know you have more than this individual. And this individual is popping off at the mouth on you. Now, society today will tell you, oh, don't take no ish from nobody. They say something smart to you, you need to get the fade. Punch them in their mouth. You need to fight them. You need to shoot them. You need to put them down. You need to deal with them. But sometimes that's not even necessary. They weak. You know you're going to win. Now, if they try to attack you physically, you got to defend yourself. Don't let anybody hurt you. But don't do it just to relieve your own heart. Like you just so upset that somebody talking to you like that. Your ego just can't accept. You like, do you know who I am? I'm Matthew Daniels. Do you know who I am? I'm Matthew. You can't talk to me like that. I can defeat you. And so I destroyed him because of what's in my own heart, my own ego. Ptah says, the ways of Mayat says, if you meet a disputant in action, someone who's disputing against you, arguing you, disagreeing with you, who is a poor man, you already have more than them. They're already down on their luck. And who is not your equal, you're already stronger than them. You already have more than them. It's like you ever seen somebody, it could be somebody like 6'5". Let's say somebody 6'5", fight somebody 3'11". What do we always say? Oh, you don't get no cool points for that. You don't get no cool points because you 6'5" and you beat up somebody that's 3'11". Oh, you 350 pounds and you beat up somebody that's 125 pounds. Bro, you don't get no cool points for that. It was already established that you was going to win. You should have let them make it unless they attacked you and you had to deal with them. But I'm saying if there was just words, you don't get no cool points for that. So even in that scenario, we understand. Mayat says you 6'5", this person is 3'11", they running off at the mouth, you let them have it. You don't have to prove you can physically destroy them. We already know you can. But don't let their words dig into your heart so much that you have to prove you can destroy them. We already know, brother. It's the right way and the wrong thing to do a thing. Look, he says, he will confound himself. The 3'11" guy, the guy that's 125. Have you ever noticed sometimes you get into it with somebody, they running off at the mouth, and you know you can easily put them down? They will just let them talk. They will confound themselves. They will look crazy. And because the point is, if it's already established that they're not a threat, everybody else knows that they're not a threat. And even if in that moment people are looking like, damn, he should whoop him. He should do him in. When people reflect on it, they're going to have more respect for you because you held back. They're going to say, you know what? That guy Matthew Daniels, something to him, man. He could have destroyed that dude and he didn't. That other dude confounded himself because everybody knows he couldn't even win. It's one thing I tell my wife all the time. Like if I get into it with somebody, the only thing I think in my mind, either you're gonna do it or you're not. I'm not worried about your threat. You know, I'm not worried about what you say. I'm not worried about how much you scrunch up your face, ball up your fist. I don't care about none of that. Because either you're gonna attack me or you won't. And if you attack me or make me really think that you're gonna attack me, we just got to deal with each other. And only one or two things can happen. Either you're going to win or I'm going to win. In either scenario, Matthew Daniels don't care. I win a fight, I'm good. I lose a fight, whatever. You see? Either this, my wife will tell you, I tell her this all the time. Either they going to do it or they ain't. That talking is nothing. Either you gonna do it or you not. Them the only two options. I don't have to think about 1,001 scenarios. Either you gonna do it or you ain't. Oh, what if this happened? What if that happened? What if this happened? What if that happened? What if this happened? No, it's only two scenarios. Either they gonna do it or they ain't. Either they gonna jump or they not. Either they gonna swing or they not. Either they gonna press or they not. Only one or two things can happen. Either you gonna do it or you not. That's the whatever. It's only two options. Let's just deal with it. Do not, Hotep says and teaching Mayat, do not answer him. Just so that you can relieve your own heart. Now, I live by this stuff. Me personally, do not vent yourself against your opponent. You don't got to argue back. Wretched is he who injures a poor man. You beat up on somebody that everybody know you can win, you lose. 6'5", you beat up on somebody 3'11", even though you win the fight, you lose. That's Mayat. If you ignore him, listeners will wish to do what you want. You will beat him through their reproof. At the end of it, people gonna say, damn, you know what? It's something to this guy, Matthew Daniels, man. Now, that's what Mayat is. Mayat is principles. Okay? Mayat is the concept of the right way. I'm gonna look at one more. I'm preaching now. If you meet a disputant in action, one who is your equal, one who is on your level, you will overcome him by being silent while he is speaking evilly. There will be much talk among those who hear, and your name will be held in high regard among the great. This is Mayat. Remember, Mayat has existed since the beginning, and it will exist to the end. Mayat is a principle. It's an idea that there is a right way to do everything. You see? Now, Mayat isn't so much about, oh, don't go 35 and a 25. Don't do 75 and a 20. Mayat isn't about the law. The laws that are made should be based on the idea of Mayat. You get it? The law isn't Mayat. The law should be based on Mayat. That's the idea. The idea is to do everything the right and correct way. That's why Mayat is a timeless religion. It existed from the beginning and it's going to exist to the end because there will always be a need to do things the right way. And no matter how society changes, no matter how many people are born, no matter how many people are died, no matter what language you speak, no matter what inventions are created, no matter what weapons are created, no matter what sanctions are placed on one country over the next, whatever scenario you are in, there is a right way to deal with it and a wrong way to deal with it. If your religion is simply based on laws, those laws can become null and void and basically useless if the conditions that make those laws exist ever ceases to exist. If the conditions cease to exist, your law ceases to exist. But the principle that the laws are built upon will last forever. Right? Let's move a little further. Now I went a little further on that than I wanted to, but I was feeling it. Now we're going to look at what's known as the 42 Laws of Mayat. Now that you know what Mayat actually is, Mayat isn't laws. Mayat isn't 42 Laws of Mayat. That's foolishness. Mayat existence is the creation of the universe. Right? And to do this, we're going to look at what's called the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Papyrus of Ani. Now, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the real name for it is the Pert M. Heru, the coming forth by day. It's a resurrection text. You die, you want to resurrect unto new life in the afterlife, to put it plainly. So Ani was a scribe. His job was to write. He lived around 1250 BCE. Now, mind you, he's living over 1,000 years after Ptah. But Maat exists forever. Now, what I have on the left is my copy of the Papyrus of Ani, the Pert Imheru. And what I have on the right is what's in the actual museum. That's the papyrus itself. It still exists. And we see Ani with his wife. I want to point this out because this is important. Ani is in front right here with the dark skin. His wife is behind him with the white skin. She died before him. So the concept is already established that when you die, you get to see your ancestors. You see that concept with the symbolism. Now, this is his judgment scene. He's going to get his heart weighed against the feather of Maat. Why is he weighed against the feather of Maat? Again, because that feather represents Maat. You see the goddess with the Maat on her head? That is Maat. Okay? So we have the book, we have the papyrus scroll, and we're going to look at some of the translations. Now, what we're going to look at when we're talking about the 42 laws of Maat, we're going to look at the 42 laws of Maat, how they are transcribed in the Pert Imheru of Ani the scribe. Okay? Now, again, the Book of the Dead is a story, but it's not told in the story form that you're used to. What happened was Asar, remember, Ptah said that Maat has remained unchanged since the time of Asar. Asar was killed by his brother Set unjustly. So Asar had to go through various trials and tribulations after being unjustly murdered in order to be resurrected and become the ruler of the underworld and the afterlife. Now he is the god of the underworld and the afterlife. But he had to go through certain things before he was resurrected. At one point, he reached the hall of the double Mayati, the doubly justified. And in this hall, he made a series of statements to justify why he is saying he was unjustly murdered by his brother Set. So in every Pert Imheru, every Book of the Dead, when they are quoting the 42 quote-unquote laws of Maat, they are repeating what Asar said. Because Asar was killed and he was able to resurrect unto new life and live in the afterlife, the people that came after him are saying, oh, whoa, wait a minute. He has the way. He has the secret. Whatever happened to Asar, I want that to happen to me so that after my death, I can resurrect in the afterworld instead of being destroyed and ceasing to exist. I can resurrect in the afterworld. I can go to where Asar is at, and I can go to where my ancestors are at who have resurrected before me. So the 42 laws of Maat are 42 statements that Asar made that we are repeating post-mortem. Look, this chapter. To be said when one cometh to the hall, this of double Mayati, of separating one from sins, all which he hath done, and of seeing of God every the faces, of seeing the face of every God. So they're saying that after death, you go through certain halls, you go through certain rooms in order to be resurrected. You have to go through a process. You have to survive the night to be resurrected in the morning. Right? So when Asar got to this hall of the double Mayat T, this is what he said. So Ani is saying, when I die and get to the hall of the double Mayat T, this is what I'm going to say too. I'm going to say what Asar said because I want the results that Asar got. Look, hail, God great, or the great God, Lord of Mayati. I have come to thee, my Lord. I have brought myself that I may see thy beauties. I know thee. I know the name of the gods 42 who exist with thee in hall this of Mayati, and who live as the punishers of sinners, who live upon their blood on day that of computing dispositions before Neferu. Verily, Recti Merti Fn Mayat is thy name. So there are 42 netters who exist in these halls. They are the punishers of sinners. Those that sin on earth get punished. And based on the sin, these individual gods punish you based on specific sins. And when they punish you, this keeps you from getting through these halls and getting to the quote unquote field of reeds or heaven. And so when Asar got to each of the 42 netters or gods, and they were punishers of particular sins, let's say they were the punisher of the people who committed the sin of murder. When Asar got to them, he said, I have not killed. And it was like, okay, I'm not going to punish you because you haven't committed that sin. I'm going to let you go further. He get to the next one in the line of the 42. Let's say this next netter is the one who punishes the sinners whose sin was stealing the offerings that were offered to the gods. So Asar said, I have not stolen the offerings of the gods. And so that netter was like, okay, you haven't violated that. I'm going to let you through. He did this 42 times. And so you too must do this 42 times. Right? Now, let's get into it. Verily, I have come to thee. I have brought to thee my art. I have brought to thee my art. I have done that which is good. I have driven away for thee wickedness. I have driven away wickedness, the wrong way to do a thing. Look what he goes on to say. I have not done iniquity to mankind. This is what Asar is saying. I have not done iniquity to mankind. So likewise, this is what Ani is saying. I have not done iniquity to mankind. And this is what you must say. I have not done iniquity to mankind. If you do iniquity to mankind, you don't deserve an afterlife. Look, not have I done harm unto animals. You do harm unto animals, you're in sin, you don't deserve an afterlife. Plain and simple. Look, not have I done wickedness in the place of my eye. So my eye is the opposite of wickedness. That's just what it is. Not have I known evil. Not have I acted wickedly. Not have I done each and every day works above what I should do. Not had come forth my name to the boat of the prince. Not have I despised God. Not have I caused misery. Not have I caused affliction. Not have I done what is abominable to God. Now, because it's a different language, the verbs and nouns and adjectives are mixed up, but he's basically saying, I have not done what is abominable to God. Not have I caused harm to be done to the servant by his chief. Not have I caused pain. Not have I made to weep. Think about that. He's saying, I never made anybody cry. How many of you can say that? At the very least, you have made your children cry. Or at the very least, you'd have made your significant other cry. Some of us get off to that. We want to break a person down to the lowest compound. They make us so mad. We want to rip their spirits to shreds. That's against my eye. Anybody that told you that the Egyptians were wicked, evil, devil worshippers, they lied. No, they weren't. And their religion taught none of that. Their religion said, if you made anybody cry in your life, you don't deserve an afterlife. Something as simple as that. If you made anybody cry, if you did anything to hurt somebody so much that they cried, you don't deserve no afterlife. You deserve to be reincarnated, to live again, to try to get it right, or you deserve to cease to exist. That's how strenuous Maat is. But think about it. How many of us can actually say, I have not caused any pain? I have never done anything that was abominable to God. I have not made anybody weep. None of us, because you have to be perfect to live your life like that, which Asar was the perfect example. See, Ani isn't able to say this. Realistically, he can try all he wants. But Asar said this. And Ani is repeating Asar. Asar was the perfect person, perfect netter, perfect being. He did everything right. Never did anything wrong. So when he died, he's able to say these things, and everyone who's trying to bring a cause against him, a judgment against him, an accusation against him, they all had to say, well, damn, no, he didn't violate no rules. He didn't violate Maat in any ways. He did everything the right way. So we have to let him resurrect and go to the field of reeds. We have to let him go to heaven. And so Asar becomes the ruler of the underworld and the afterlife because he is the only perfect being who ever existed, even when you look at the other Neteru. He was the perfect being to ever exist. That's why he got the status that he got. But when he got that status, he made it possible for humanity to make it into heaven, quote unquote, the field of reeds, with him, but they had to follow his example. He was the way. They had to live how Asar lived, speak how Asar spoke, do what Asar did, think how Asar thought, treat people how Asar treated people. And when they died, they had to be covered by Asar. In the Book of the Dead, the Pert Imhe rule, the actual Ani, he calls himself Asar Ani, or you will read it as Osiris Ani. Osiris is the Greek version of the name Asar. So yes, Ani may have caused pain. Ani may have made one to weep, but it is his belief in Asar, Osiris, and his ability to repeat what Asar repeated, following the way, the path that Asar has carved out, that's going to allow him to get into the afterlife. Look, not have I killed, not have I made the order for killing for me. So not only have I not killed, but people like Lil Durk putting hits on people. Not have I made the order for killing. So it's not enough that you didn't kill nobody. But you know how some people, they get rich, they millionaires, they billionaires. Somebody make them mad and they, you know what? I'm going to put a price on his head. I'll give you $10,000 to take that guy out. Oh, you can't get into the afterlife. You can't make it into heaven because Maat is the right way. Maat is the right way. Not have I made the order for killing for me. If an individual follow Maat, I'm telling you, things will change overnight. Not have I done harm to mankind. Not have I taken aught of the oblations in the temples. Now I want to remind y'all of something. Maat isn't a turn the other cheek religion. Let me just point that out. Because Maat it's a right way to deal with isfet. It's a right way to deal with evil. It's a right way to deal with chaos. You stamp it out. Because if you let evil, if you let chaos, if you let wickedness reign free, then people suffer. So you are well within the rights of Maat to stand up for what is righteous and good. So there are times when the Egyptians went to war, they had to kill people, they had to fight, they had to put people in the servitude, and all of that was justified under the bounds of Maat because they were stamping out Isfet. You stamp out Isfet wherever you see it. You stamp out evil. You stamp out wickedness. You stamp out any vile, unmoral behavior. Because that vile, unmoral behavior causes other people to live in a perpetual state of poverty and madness. So let's make no mistake about that. In Maat, you step on Isfet. But you don't just step on the innocent, and you try your best to avoid that. But when it's unavoidable, you have to stamp the Isfet out. Not have I purloined the cakes of the gods, the netters. Not have I carried off the offerings of the blessed dead. Not have I fornicated, sexual immorality. This existed thousands of years ago. Family, I be telling people this. They don't understand what I'm telling them. This existed thousands of years ago. Before any of the major world religions of today existed. Maat existed. And these were already the rules of Maat. Not have I defiled myself. You know, sometimes you see people, they do things and you like, damn, bro, you disrespecting yourself when you do that. Well, can't get into heaven. Disrespecting yourself. This would teach an individual, if they really believed in this would teach an individual to have self-respect, honor themselves, honor their body, honor their mind. Because you can't get into heaven without it. And not only just get into heaven, it's not only about the afterlife, it's about the life that you have right here on earth. Living by Maat makes life on earth better. Which is why when you look into the ancient world, the ancient Egyptian society, it overshadows everything. When you look at the time period that the Egyptian civilization flourished, it's nothing like it. Nowhere else in the world. Yes, you can find some things that are in Egypt in other places, but I'm talking about the culmination of things. It's nothing like it in the ancient world. We just got to be honest about that. Why? Because they strove to do everything, every part of life. They strove to do it the right way. Not have I added to, not have I diminished the offerings, not have I stolen from the orchard, not have I trampled down the fields, not have I added to the weight of the balance, and that's basically like stealing money. Not have I diminished from the weight of the balance, not have I carried off the milk from the mouth of the babe. Now, some of these things where they're talking about diminishing the weight from the balance, that's a kind of cultural thing. But since Maat is not have I diminished the weight of the balance. Maat is the principle that would lead you to not diminish the weight of the balance. Now, let's see, when they did business transactions, they used the balance, they used the scale. You would weigh one thing against another to make sure that they were, equal weight, equal value, what have you. Now, let's say I have a piece of silver, or what appears to be a piece of silver, and I'm claiming that it weighs, 1 pound, 1 pound worth of silver. But I manipulated it. And what I really did is I took some rocks and I encased them in silver and I have 2 ounces of silver encasing 14 ounces of rock, and it weighs out to be 16 ounces of what looks like silver, and I pass that off as 16 ounces of silver. I'm cheating the weight on the balance. That's just like you get something, you know it's only worth $2, you sell it for $200. When the person doesn't knows what it's really worth. You know, yeah, you just made $198, but you violated my eye. Some forms of capitalism is a violation of my eye. It is what it is. It's a violation of my eye. You can't come up like that. You can't live. You shouldn't live like that. Not if you want to follow my eye. You need to do things the right way, charge the right price. Not have I driven away the cattle which were upon their pastures. Not have I captured the birds of the preserves of the gods. Not have I taken the fishes with bait of their own bodies. Now that's deep. That's deep. He's saying I didn't even use pieces of fish to catch fish, because apparently it's wicked to make the fish eat fish. That's crazy. Not have I turned back water at its season. Not have I cut a cutting in water. Not have I extinguished a flame at its hour. Not have I violated the times of the chosen offerings. Not have I driven back the cattle of divine things. I have not repulsed God in his manifestations. Even I am pure. Times 4, meaning you say that 4 times. I am pure. I am pure. I am pure. I am pure. The only way is to be pure is to follow my eye. I am pure with the purity of Benu, that great which is in Sutin. What is the Benu? This real quick. What is the Benu? The Benu is the phoenix. The phoenix bird is the Benu. Look right here where the hand is at. You see Benu. The determinative is a seated figure, male figure with a beard. Whenever you see a seated figure with a beard, that's netter, that's divinity. So the Benu bird is a representation of a Sar. Why? Because the Benu bird is associated with a Sar, and it's associated with resurrection. And it was associated with resurrection in what they call Heliopolis. That's the Greek name. Heliopolis. Heliopolis. City of the sun. City of the sun. Heat. Fire. Fire. Sun. Ra. Benu. Phoenix. Resurrection. The phoenix bird is a bird where it's only one of its kind lives at a time. So the phoenix is alive. There's no other phoenix alive. When it's about to die, it goes to a certain place. It builds its nest. It dies in the nest. From its decaying flesh, a worm is created. That worm uses the body of its predecessor and the elements in the nest. I'm going to mess you up here. Some of those elements are frankincense and myrrh. Frankincense and myrrh. It creates an egg. That worm incubates in that egg, turns into a bird. That bird breaks out of the egg. It becomes the next phoenix. So in actuality, that new bird is the old bird. It is a resurrected phoenix bird. Which is why in the Bible it talks about the 3 wise men bringing gifts to Jesus of frankincense and myrrh, because Jesus is supposed to be, or is going to be, the resurrected Savior. And the resurrected Savior is intimately tied to Asar. It's intimately tied to the legend of the Phoenix. And the Phoenix is the Benu bird. It's represented by the Benu bird. And that you see that because the determinative for Benu is what? The seated netter figure. That's a symbol for God. You understand? Any resurrected savior is a sword. Anyone. For thousands of years, he was the resurrected one. That's his story. Ain't nobody resurrecting if you ain't got it from him. And then if you are resurrecting and you didn't get it from him, you got it from somebody that got it from him. He was the first one to do it. That just is what it is. That is what it is. And so they go on to talk about more I have not statements that he made, but we're going to let that suffice for now because I do have other things to do and I didn't want to make this too long. So when we're talking about the 42 laws of Maat, sometimes you hear it called the 42 negative confessions. Why do they call it negative confessions? Because it's worded as in I have not. A negative confession. A confession is if I get arrested for murder and I confess, I'm saying I killed Matthew Daniels. A negative confession is I did not kill Matthew Daniels. So the wording of it, I have not defiled the gods. I have not caused anyone to weep. I have not done this. I have not done that. That's why they call it the negative confessions. Because you're confessing that you didn't do it. And so sometimes you hear it called the 42 laws of Maat. Sometimes you hear it called the 42 negative confessions. But what is it really? All it is 42 statements that a Tsar made after he was unjustly murdered by his brother Set. And the individual that's dead or that's dying, they are saying that I'm going to go and say exactly what Asar said when he died so that I can have the results that Asar had. But when we talk about laws of Maat, Maat itself is a principle, and that principle is the right way. There is a right way to do everything. And there is a right way to live. There is a right way to conduct yourself in while you're on planet Earth. There is a right way to conduct yourself in any and every situation. One thing I tell people about laws, a law, a legal document can never be all inclusive. That's why all laws are constantly updated, revised, and added to. In any society with a legal document that is the basis of their society, they also create a governing body to interpret those laws based on how society may change in the future. In America, it's the Supreme Court. Why do you think the Supreme Court exists? The Supreme Court exists because they know laws themselves are not eternal, but the idea behind the law can be eternal. So whatever happens now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 100 years from now, the Supreme Court interprets that and they determine if it is in alignment with the principle that is laid out in the Constitution. Right? So the ultimate religion of Maat, the religion of the ancestors, it wasn't so much as making the law. It was making the principles of doing the right thing that the laws should be created around. So when an individual creates a law, you can say, oh, that law is based on Maat or it's not based on Maat. Oh, that law is based on Maat or it's not based on Maat. Because again, in ancient Kemet, it was it was somewhat of a theocracy, but the Pharaoh was the god. So the government was ran by the Pharaoh, the Nisubiti. What he said was law. When you're talking about the legal, no one could come to Pharaoh and Pharaoh say, do this. And you tell them, oh, that goes against my eye. I don't have to do this. Pharaoh, off with your head. Anytime you have a king, that's how they can rule. Period. Until you have a legal document. Side note, that's why in Great Britain, Great Britain, it still has a monarchy. But what made the monarchy lose its absolute power? It's a document called the Magna Carta. And with the Magna Carta, they laid out a document that instituted the principles that would govern them and would even govern the royalty, the royal family. And so they said, look, if the king makes a decision that's not in line with the Magna Carta, they're wrong. But prior to that, if you were a king, your word was law. Your word is in every society, the king's word was law. Now you can tell the king that they're wrong, but the king is going to do what the king wants to do. Even if they're wrong, the king is just going to be wrong, but they're going to do it because they're the king. So the religion of ancient Egypt was Maat. Maat is the right way to do a thing. All of the laws are based on the principles of the goddess Maat. So that's my presentation on the 42 laws of Maat. I hope you guys learned something. If you have any questions, post it in the chat. I'm going to end this slideshow. And I'm going to end this video because I have a few other things I have to do. I have to get back to the video, the book. Like I said in the beginning, I am writing my 17th novel. I don't want to expose what it's about or the title of it. I'm keeping it close to my chest, tongue in cheek, as they say. I'm almost finished with it. It should be ready for this summer. And I think this one is going to take my literary career to another level. I want to thank everybody for watching. Thanks for tapping in. Thanks for the support. And again, I apologize for not dropping a video in a while. But anyone who watches this, you guys know how it is. You have spouses, you have children, you have jobs, you have other hobbies. You guys know what it is. I know y'all don't hold it against me, but what are the 42 laws of Maat? I hope this sheds some light on that. You guys have a wonderful morning. It's your brother Matthew Daniels. Thanks for choosing Matthew Daniels TV. I am the real bookworm. And I am the greatest author alive. Hotel, I'm out.